Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So let me ask you a question. Are you smarter than your doctor, even if you're a healthcare professional? I hope you'll stay tuned for just a brief little story that's happened to me that I want to enlighten you on because it might help someone else. So behind me, you might see that only a portion of my step back cupboard has been emptied of Halloween decorations. And there are decor tubs kind of everywhere. And I shared on an earlier video, I'll get that down, the day after Halloween. So, y'all, I am generally fairly healthy. Like, I don't usually get like colds and flus and things like that. And I have a tendency as a nurse of 43 years. I graduated from nursing school and obtained my license in 1981. And even though I'm not actively practicing, I still have an active license, and I still try to keep abreast of new trends, new medications, new research, that type of thing, because I find it very interesting. But I will tell you, because I have been right more than I've been wrong, sometimes I don't agree with the doctor's perception as I go in for a checkup of what might be going on with me. Do you ever feel that way? Like sometimes I want to say, I have wanted to say, I love my doctor, so this is no shame on her. I've lived in this body for 63 years. Do you think I don't know? And while as healthcare consumers, we need to be our own healthcare advocate, especially in today's day of insurance denials. Y'all, I have been down a lot of roads getting medications denied simply because Medicare doesn't want to pay for it, or whatever insurance I happened to have at the time when I was working was like, yeah, no, no. And I have adapted sort of an attitude that sometimes insurance companies can be very short-sighted. So let me give you an example. I was on an injectable medication 4 times a year called Stelara. It is a miracle drug for psoriatic arthritis and can also skin psoriasis, but this was for psoriatic arthritis, and helped me function so much better. But besides a good quality of life, Stelara research has shown, let me say this, that it prevents further joint damage. Y'all have seen the commercials, right? So if you allow your psoriasis to flare, if you allow your joints to get inflamed, which makes it very difficult to use them, and you may cause injury or simply wear out the joint, to me, not approving a medication that isn't palliative, in other words, it doesn't just cover up your symptoms, it's not exactly curative, but it's somewhere in between, because it prevents what could happen later down the road. So I have not had my psoriatic arthritis medication. It also did wonders for my lupus for over 3 years. So what's the net of that? Well, my joints have gotten worse. I do have outbreaks of psoriasis. When I do, I try not to show that, like if it's a lot of times it's on my elbow or knee, I try not to show it on the video because it's not really pretty. It just looks like really crusty, dry skin. But my psoriasis has been kept at bay. But I know that certain conditions in life, like stress, deaths in the family, illness, an injury like having dental implants can really cause you to flare up in both your psoriatic arthritis and your lupus. So I feel like, and I have appealed, I have talked to Medicare, and you know, the same thing happened with the diabetes medicine. They no longer will approve Trulicity because by taking it, my blood sugar has improved. Because I changed my diet, my blood sugar is 1/10 of a point below where they will pay for it. So I actually talked with them, and when I filled out my appeal, I said, why, when this has been proven in my case to improve my health, would you not want to continue that medication? Because we know what diabetes does to the body. So it affects your kidneys, it affects your circulation, it can affect your heart. There's so many things that your eyes. I don't have good eyes to start with, just saying, guys. Still haven't got myself any cheaters. Put that on the to-do list. So, yeah, they were like, no. It's very frustrating to me. And while I can't change insurance approvals, one thing about myself I can change. And you may be wondering what that is. And I'm just going to share with you what I've discovered that my doctor told me that I was like, I know better. So I hope y'all are laughing with me. This is going to be a talky talk video because you'll understand in just a moment. So I hope you'll stay tuned. So I hope you all will laugh a little bit at me, with me, however you want to look at it. I had to get my water and I'll explain why. So one thing I've realized is over the last just under 18 months, I lost my last living parent, my mother, who I cared for 13 years. She had dementia. I've lost 2 aunts and an uncle. And whether you see them every day, which my mother, of course, I did, but, you know, whether you're close to those people or not, it can be really tough, y'all. And after my mom had passed away, I started to notice some symptoms of diabetes. So I believe it was September or October of last year. So it's been a full year, right? And so I decided to do telemedicine with an endocrinologist that specialized in diabetes. There's a very strong family history on my mother's side of diabetes. My grandpa, so her father, my mother, and her still living 93-year-old brother, who is insulin dependent as well. So sometimes it's genetic, but just doing a random blood sugar, which is what my doctor, who's now retired, he was wonderful, did, doesn't give you the full story, right? And I go to the doctor an hour away, and it's almost always in rush hour traffic because that's where it is, right? So sometimes my blood pressure would be a little bit up. So eventually, he decided I should be on blood pressure medication. I'm like, cool. I've taken it regularly, but when I started seeing the endocrinologist, diabetes specialists often focus on kind of a trifecta. So your blood sugar, your cholesterol, and your blood pressure. And that's become kind of the new standard because it is well understood that can lead to circulatory or heart disease. And so those things needed to be managed. So the endocrinologist actually strengthened my blood pressure medication tremendously because when you do telehealth, you get a scale. Hated that thing. But you also get a blood pressure machine, and it's Wi-Fi, and so it just goes directly to them, right? My blood pressure was not coming down, and I'm like, what is going on? So she added a water pill, which was way too strong, and I was taking a half dose, and I'm like, I don't think I need this. So I quit taking it. Okay, probably should not do that, y'all. And that's kind of the message of this. Even if you're a physician yourself and you have subjective viewpoint on what's going on with your body, which the doc should listen to, there's also an objective. So there's signs, there's symptoms, there's measurements that they can do. So when I went to the doctor, y'all, this is so funny. When I went to the doctor, I think September, for my regular, I go quarterly because of my diagnoses. My blood pressure was really low, and I had driven the hour. I wasn't uptight about anything, but it was really low. And so I explained to her, I'm not taking the water pill. And the other thing, sorry guys to be all over the place, and I hope this isn't too medical. When you have high blood pressure, you almost always are placed on a reduced salt or sodium diet. Well, what contains a lot of sodium? Well, canned soups, processed lunch meats, bouillon, if you eat it, soy sauce. If you do takeout like Chinese food because of the soy sauce, a lot of fast foods are very highly salted, and even some restaurant foods are more highly salted because it appeals to the American palate. So if you're not in the US, I'm not accusing you. And normally in my career, you would be placed on a 2-gram sodium diet, which is 2,000 milligrams, right? And I'm like, I'm not a heavy salter, guys, and I'm not a potato chip pretzel type lover. But what I did realize is there were ways I could cut my sodium. I try to buy anything that I have to buy canned that I don't grow. I buy the low sodium version if I can, if it exists. And I've dramatically cut my sodium intake. And y'all, at first I was like, heck, I'm bland. But, and quit taking the water pill. So those two things working together, and I don't know, y'all, my hands look like I'm 95, but you see, I don't have any fluid in my hands at all. I know I have a crooked thumb, and I had this between my knees, so that's why it's red. I'm not retaining water, and I've continued on the lower sodium diet because the endocrinologist said, I want you to try 1 gram. Guys, that's like a teaspoon a day. And you might think, well, God, I don't put a teaspoon on stuff. It's in so many foods. Crackers, like me some crackers, cheeses. So I've really focused on that. So when I went to the doctor and my blood pressure was low, she was like, okay, guys, here comes the telling on myself. You need to keep an eye on your blood pressure. So I have a professional blood pressure machine that once I learned I had hypertension, my mom had it as well, I wanted to keep a close eye on it. But once the medications had changed and my blood pressure was at a normal level, I was like, I'm busy. I got a garden to take care of. I got chickens to pet. I quit measuring it. So I was shocked, and I thought, well, maybe like the medical assistant did something wrong. But if you're a nurse or even someone who's had a lot of blood pressure measurements, you can feel, because it actually constricts the blood flow. And when your heart starts pumping again, that's the top number of your blood pressure. And at my worst, I would be over 200 on the top, over 100 on the bottom. Stress-induced, I really still believe that. So fast forward to the last couple weeks. Oh, y'all, I hate admitting this to you, but it's the truth. Okay, maybe a month, being fully honest. I've been having episodes where I feel like the best way I can describe it is someone let the air out of my tires. I feel like I'm running on 4 flats. I don't have energy, and I started having shortness of breath with not a lot of exertion. I'm not terribly out of shape. I'm a little fluffy, but I'm not fat. I'm not obese, right? So I'm like, I just don't understand what's going on. Maybe I need vitamins. Okay, this is how a nurse's mind works. Started taking my vitamins. Did really good last week, took them every day. And wasn't better. And then I also noticed when I would turn my head, I'd be like, ooh, I'm a little dizzy. Well, that can be a symptom of high or low blood pressure. So I've been drinking some diet soda since I can't have sugar. And I actually looked up the sodium content. It's fine in what I'm drinking, but I got away from drinking just water. So I went back on my water. No, not better. So when I wake up in the morning, a lot of times what I like to do is I say a long prayer before my mind is cluttered with chickens need something. I haven't taken down the Halloween decorations. Oh, dear Lord, I got to call this or that person about this or that, right? Oh, I better send flowers. I need to get a card in the mail. You know how your mind works when you're type A. And no matter what your belief system is, I'm not here to offend you or to judge you. I know what I know to be true for me. And it was just laid on my heart. You need to take your blood pressure, Kimberly. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine. So as I started working, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm out of breath going up the stairs, and that's never been the case for me. So I checked my blood pressure this morning, finally, and I take my blood pressure medication at night. That's often a physician recommendation just because it can cause dizziness in some people. It's never affected me that way, but I've always taken it at night, in the evening. So I'm still in the 24 hours that this is effective. I take my blood pressure and I'm like, no, wait, let me do that again. Very, 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 did I mention it was very low? Totally explains why I've been feeling the way I'm feeling. And as the doctor said, you may need a decrease in your dose, or you may end up off of it altogether. And I think a lot of my hypertension, first of all, I'm 15.3 pounds thinner than when all this went down, and I'm still kind of puffy. But anyway, I've changed my diet. My blood sugar's under control. I don't have the same stress, and I don't regret anything I ever did that I did when my mom was living, because she was like a whole handful, just with her health problems and because she had dementia, her behaviors sometimes. And so I think I'm at a different place, anxiety-wise in my life, that I don't have as much problem with hypertension based on being anxious or nervous. Plus, in the last year, because I've changed so many things, I am off of a few medications, and I'm not going to go into all that. You don't need to hear about that. But my health has actually improved. Well, my joints haven't, but the rest of me, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar. So, y'all, the bottom line is, okay, this is bad. Don't do this. I'm going to skip my pill tonight, and then I'm going to start having it because I know the wean down routine. I'm not going to just stop it cold turkey. But y'all, I have been slamming water because how do you raise your blood pressure? Well, I don't want to get anxious, but you need to have adequate blood volume. So if you lose a lot of blood, your blood pressure drops down. So I'm definitely doing some things to make sure, pardon me, that I'm doing healthy things for myself. I will be monitoring my blood pressure. Imagine that, even though they told me to do that, I'm like, I'm a nurse. I'll know if something's out of whack. Well, I didn't. I knew something was out of whack, but I didn't associate the two. I really feel like the Lord sent me that answer, if I didn't say that. I just felt really convicted that I needed to get it out. So that's my little story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Guys, I am still trying to get all these Halloween decorations and fall. I'm leaving some fall up, but most of it's coming down. As you see, I've got one shelf up top done, and I still have some pumpkins there. It's so much work. And when you have to lay down every 10 minutes because you're like panting like you've just run a marathon, yeah. So, you know, if any symptoms worsen, if trying the regime that I would be put on does not work, I will certainly go to the doctor. I have an appointment next month, but I'm not going to wait until then if things don't level out. I think they will. I think they will. And what the doctor said was, you know, just keep an eye on your blood pressure. Did I do that? No. And then, you know, we can start cutting it back. And still being the nurse that I am, I'm like, well, I'll do that myself. But I think they do have an online portal. I do think that I will send a message and just say, here's where I am, here's what I've done, because I'm going to do it before I ask her. Because otherwise she'll be like, no, you need to come here. And that's 2 hours in the car. And I don't want to do that right now. Yeah, I need to get caught up around here for sure. You know, I didn't film it, y'all, for a reason. Uncle Steve was here on Saturday. I had toilet guts that needed replaced, new camera installed, and then rearranged some security items. And I don't want to share that in case the freak that was on my porch is actually a YouTube person. And I don't think they are. I've not had any further problem, but, you know, certain things you just have to keep private. And then, you know, my aunt dying and the funeral, and I had a lash appointment, which Kym Clark does not miss her lash appointment. You know, so it's just been a really busy weekend, and I kept thinking, well, I'll feel better tomorrow and I'll do it. So that's your little lesson. Whether you're a healthcare professional or just someone that knows their body well, don't take too much into your own hands, because sometimes someone who is giving you an objective view about what can be going on, and you're only operating from your subjective or your self view, it could be really detrimental or disastrous. Now, I haven't fainted. I don't feel dizzy all the time, but sometimes I do. So that explains why I'm out of breath. That explains why my heart pounds, because my blood pressure is too low. All right, guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. Just a reminder, you know, keep in touch with your healthcare professional. Don't be afraid to share things that are going on. When I went to the doctor 2 months ago, probably, I wasn't having those symptoms. I had no idea my blood pressure had dropped that much. I think in the doctor's office it was like 107 for the top number. And I'm thinking, am I dead? Did she do it wrong? So, you know, again, just be alert. Don't be afraid to communicate. It's so easy in today's world with telehealth, telemedicine. You can do it from the comfort of your home. I can do a video call, so I really don't have to drive. But with it being blood pressure, she probably wants to measure it herself. All right, guys. I plan to see you all on Thursday. Hopefully by Thursday I won't be so... Ooh, I spit on myself. I will be feeling more like type A Kym, not out of breath. And, oh, one little update before we go. I can't call Miss Winona the baby anymore. Miss Winona is broody. I'm like, no! My barred rocks have never gone broody. Violet, as y'all know, she's broody every other month. Not really, but I mean, a couple times, sometimes 3 times a year. And I thought, oh no, Winona's sick. So I'm looking at her hind end thinking, does she have an egg stalk? Because she didn't lay for 2 days. And I'm like, that's pretty unusual. Well, when chickens are broody, they have certain symptoms. She loves her mom, but when I go in and try to pet her or pick her up, she puffs her feathers out and goes, which is what Violet does. And she seems perfectly healthy. Now, she doesn't have a comb, so I can't tell the color of her comb, but I checked her over pretty thoroughly, and she's just bound and determined to sit on her imaginary eggs or her imaginary babies, and she probably won't come out of it, started November 1 till close to the first of, maybe Thanksgiving-ish, and then it usually takes 2 weeks or so for Miss Violet to start laying. So I'm getting no eggs. I'm very thankful. I have freeze-dried and water glass eggs. in the meantime. So I will see you all on Thursday. Do me a big favor, if you will. Go ahead and smash that like button on your way out. Drop me a comment below. Have you ever thought you knew better than your doctor? I'd love to hear your stories if you're comfortable sharing it. All right, guys, until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.